Welcome to Sagas Sass Season 3, brought to you by Geek Saga Entertainment. I'm Tara, along with fellow hosts Nick and Jonathan.
This episode will cover parts 4 through 6 of the Gilded Wolves, the first installment of Roshani Chokshi's Gilded Wolves trilogy.
If you're watching live, join us in the chat, or after the fact, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Sagas and Sass to continue the conversation.
And don't forget that we now have a Patreon with
Woo!
10 tiers ranging from $1 a month to $40 a month. It offers tons of ways to support us and receive some great perks in return. And you can check it out at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.
And just a reminder, the views expressed in the show are those of the hosts as individuals and do not necessarily represent the show as a whole.
Okay. When last we left our cookies, Severin's adopted brother Tristan had been captured by this absolute jerk, Rouge Bear, whom they soon come to realize is somehow part of the Fallen House, that being the Fourth Order of Babel House that was stripped of its power because they kinda, sorta, definitely tried to use a Babel fragment to become like gods or something. They're able to figure out that the Fallen House's secret meeting place is in the Parisian catacombs, which they can enter using a tezcat, a sort of smoke and mirror type object. And thankfully, Severin stole a special piece of silver cloth that Zofia can now manipulate in order to block others from entering, because, of course, she can make said tiny piece of cloth work as an entire ass shield. Severin and Layla enter the catacombs first and find Tristan very conveniently placed. Layla realizes pretty quickly that it must be a trap, but Severin insists on saving their friend from the mind-controlling Phobos helmet, and #shocking not shocking, Severin and Layla are captured. Rouge Bear begins torturing Severin and in the process reveals that his blood, that is Rouge Bear's blood, is not red but gold, and it allows him to control people's souls. No good, very bad. Ew. Not surprisingly, Rouge Bear is something of an exhibitionist and explains that the Fallen House will use the Babel rings to awaken the fragment. He believes that someone who he calls the Doctor will help him ascend to godhood if he succeeds, but while he's busy activating the fragment, Zofia, Hypnos, and Enrique manage to enter the catacombs. While Zofia's invention keeps the other members of the Fallen House from entering the catacombs for a while, and a combination of her matches and the trail of powder that Severin left proves a sufficient distraction as well, eventually Rouge Bear kills his companion, the Blade Hat Man from earlier in the story. I'm still not sure what a Blade Hat is or how the fuck it works, by the way. And Rouge Bear uses the power that he gains from the man's blood to open the doorway.
At this point, a new player enters the fray, someone in a bug mask who is apparently the aforementioned Doctor. But in the meantime, the cookies have figured out that the Eye of Horus needs to be placed in the center of a spiral pattern in the floor in order to essentially put the Babel fragment to sleep, which is super important because for real, there are skeletons clambering out of their tombs to do who the fuck knows what. Thankfully, Hypnos has already tossed off his order tag belongings, knowing that this would draw the Sphinxes, aka the Order Police, to the scene. He also distracts the Doctor long enough for Layla to get the eye in place, so the skeletons retreat back to their tombs as the Sphinxes arrive and record this whole ass mess. Unfortunately, Rouge Bear is seriously injured and therefore captured. The Doctor and other Fallen House members flee, so of course the travails of our heroes, anti-heroes, don't end here. While Hypnos has promised that he will put in a good word for Severin and the cookies celebrate their victory, tragedy strikes just 1 week later. They are all supposed to attend a full moon party wearing the titular Gilded Wolf masks, but Zofia loses her nerve after witnessing Enrique, who she likes, making out with Hypnos, and Severin ignores a very important letter that was sent to him by the head of House Core. Layla is scheduled to dance at the party, and in an attempt to distract himself as she takes the stage because he totes in love with her, Severin finally opens that important letter, which reveals that Rouge Bear has escaped and warns them not to leave his hotel.
In a very convenient twist, Rouge Bear charges into the party right then and throws that stupid fucking bladed hat in the general direction of the cookies. And Severin, assuming it is meant for Layla, tackles and saves her, only to realize a moment too late that Tristan was the real target. Moment of silence for our plant and tarantula loving quiet boy, Tristan. Now, You'd think that would be the end of the first book, but wait, there's more. Hypnos does in fact follow through with his promise to force the matriarch of House Core to re-administer the inheritance test, but Severin, mad with guilt and grief over the loss of his adopted brother, and believing everything is his fault, refuses. Months go by, and the cookies continue to drift apart until Layla has finally had enough and shows up at Severin's door in hopes of rekindling their romance or whatever the hell it is. But Severin is still feeling guilty AF about moving to save her over Tristan and pushes her away. Because of course he does. More time passes, and even though Severin has not officially been reinstated as the head of House Vant, he is apparently, somehow, still tapped to attend the Order of Babel Winter Conclave in Russia. Layla insists that he take her with him as his mistress so that she can have full access to the castle and hopefully continue her search for the book that might extend the expiration date on her manufactured life. And although this means that they will have to pretend that being in a relationship, she says she doesn't care. And he reluctantly, or not, let's be real, agrees. We've already said this once, but wait, there's more, because the Gilded Wolves concludes with a single short chapter in Hypnos's perspective as the head of House Core confronts him and tells him that Severin can't take the inheritance test because, wait for it, he's not actually the heir to House Vanth. Wait, what?
I love the inflection you put on that last bit.
Thank you. My training coming out.
So Jonathan, you missed our last episode. So why don't you give us your, I don't know, short thoughts, opinions, whatever, about the first, like, parts 1 through 3, which was about the first, like, 2/3 of this book. What did you think about it, and how did you feel?
So I must admit I was really enjoying parts 1 and 2. And then I, due to a lack of time, started to listen on tape because of some things that happened in my life, and I wasn't going to have time to actually read it. And I must say, listening on tape just does not work for me. I find I don't follow it nearly as well as when I'm actually reading it myself. But overall, I think this book is very good. It definitely was capturing my interest. I do see a lot of similarities in, I guess, writing style to Shadow and Bone. And in some ways, some similarities to the characters. I also, at least getting to the Roshani part, saw that I think she was heavily influenced from Goldfinger, in that Roshani is Goldfinger, but he has the weapon of Oddjob, so I think clearly she had watched her James Bond.
Well, the other guy has the bladed hat. He just uses it at the end.
You're right. Good point. But
but
so
still.
he was Goldfinger. He just uses Oddjob's
hat, right? Yeah,
at the end.
At the very end. I'll be completely honest. I saw Goldfinger like once a million years ago and don't remember anything about it. So
that's because you're young, Tara.
No, but that's the crazy thing is I actually I was in a mode a few years ago, just kind of bored, wanting something on in the background, and I think maybe they just put a whole bunch of James Bond movies on like Netflix or something, and I watched a crap ton of like the really old James Bond movies. Like, I'm not a huge James Bond fan by any means, but I don't even know if I'd call myself a fan, but I also feel like it's one of those things that, like, you gotta watch it, right? It's James Bond. It's like this, it's like a rite of passage or something. I don't know. But so I don't remember anything about Goldfinger, so I'm going to have to look that up now and see, or maybe watch it again finally after a billion years. Like, the only James Bond movie I think that I've seen in theaters was possibly one of the worst ones, and it was oh god, I don't remember which one it was. It was the one with Christmas Jones.
I remember seeing that in the theater too because of that horrible joke at the end.
Yes, exactly.
Which one had Christmas Jones? I'm blanking on that.
Christmas only comes once a year. I thought Christmas.
Christmas only came once a year.
Lord. Oh God.
No, but I tried to. Was that a Roger Moore one?
No. It was
No, that was Pierce Brosnan.
Oh,
It
that
was
was the Pierce.
the second to last one, I
The
believe.
world is not enough.
Yes,
No.
there you go. Anyway, not to go on a huge James Bond kick here, but now I feel like I have to watch Goldfinger again and find.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't have weird tangents.
Yeah, right. I mean, we don't have Nami here though, so they won't go on for 25 minutes. Nami, heart.
Our last one of these, Jonathan, was like 2 hours, maybe even longer than that.
Well, I debated whether to try to participate, but realized my internet connection on the ship was pathetic. So
you were on a ship in the Mediterranean, and
yes, and Anna and Talia are still there.
I know,
they got stuck because of the COVID protocols, and they were in quarantine in Malta for 7 days. They are out of quarantine and now having an enjoyable ladies' long weekend in Malta, but before coming back on Sunday.
Good for them. Good for them. On the last part, not the COVID and stuff.
Yeah, not the horrible part, but the other part. That's great.
Okay, so on that note, we'll jump into the last 4 parts of this book, which again, like I said, this is like only the last maybe third of the book ish, give or take a few pages. And to be honest, like I know a lot happens, right? Because they go to the catacombs, they have a whole fight in the catacombs, but to be honest, like the fight in the catacombs, I was kind of just busting through it reading wise because I didn't care. Like it was just like it felt like a lot of I wasn't interested in what was happening, I guess. And I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts on that because it felt like a little bit messy. And this is where I kind of like, as much as I see the similarities between the heist stuff in this book and Six of Crows and everything, I just don't think that Roshani Chokshi's writing of it is as good. And I say that as somebody who I actually think that the writing in this book is a lot more Shadow and Bone quality than it is Six of Crows quality. And I think a big part of that is that the author wrote a lot of, what is it called before young adult novels?
Children's novels?
No, not children's. There's like and it's not even preteens. There's another term for when you write like that for kids that are in that, like 10 to like 13.
Preteen?
It's not preteen. Whatever. I'll figure it out 2 hours from now when it doesn't matter. But most of her books have been written for slightly younger kids. And I'm not saying that she can't write for young adults or adults. I'm just saying that I think this being her first young adult trilogy, you could see that just like you could see it with the Shadow and Bone trilogy from Leigh Bardugo. So, I just, the fight in the catacombs was not holding my attention, and I want to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
Well, it didn't hold my attention either, but as I said, that may have been quite honestly a result of listening to it while.
And combat rarely holds
driving.
my attention, honestly. At least in no, I was gonna say at least in books, but like even in like TV and movies and things, like it's mostly things flying around the screen and you're just kind of trying to keep up with the general idea of what's happening.
Well, I mean, there are historically, going to compare it to TV, there are ideal ways to write either combat and or action sequences, and just as there are ideal ways to film said combat and action sequences. And my big complaint about modern movies is action sequences are far too long in general, and lose their luster after you've seen people bashing each other for 20 minutes. But having said that, some places it's really clear what's going on of what in the action sequence, and I didn't find that to be true in this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be honest, like I felt the same way with the Fall of Babel, the big fight scene in the Sphinx's lair. There was a lot like, and in terms of writing, Josiah Bancroft is a master in many ways and had definitely written some great fight scenes before that. But and it might be just that it's like, it's too long and it's like, it's only especially in this case, it's only the first book. Like, so, they're going to come out on top at least somewhat. Right. So there's not a
They
lot.
can't all die.
Right. And especially it being young adult, I didn't really think any of them would die in the fight scene, especially. And I was correct. I mean, obviously somebody died eventually, but just not in the fight scene. So yeah, it's like the action that the last part of this, well, not even last part 4 of this book entailed wasn't really my shtick. I mean, to be honest, don't get me wrong, I loved the book as a whole. And I think the only issue here especially is that we had to split it in such a way that either we talk about the whole book at once, which I really don't want to do because then we don't have enough time to get into all the ins and outs, right?
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time in our last episode covering the first 3 parts, talking about the characters and whatnot. And in splitting the book, it's like with some books, I really with the Books of Babel, it worked out great, but with these or with this one especially, it was very uneven because so much happened in parts 1 through 3, and then in parts 4 through 6, it's like this short little, well, maybe almost too lengthy bit about their fight in the catacombs, and then a whole lot of, and weeks later, and months later, and it's like, oh no, we're doing time skips now.
Yep.
Which I personally feel is lazy writing. So while I loved the book as a whole, I really didn't like the split in this one. And again, that's probably like my fault, our fault for having to split it that way. Otherwise we cover one part at a time and it's not enough to talk about, or we cover the whole thing and it's too much. So all that said, I don't know. So other thoughts about the fight in the catacombs, about the fallen house showing up, because I know a lot of this is like, who cares about Bladed Hat Guy dying? Like, he never even had a name.
Yeah.
Like,
Can I be embarrassed and say that I thought the fallen house was House Vanth? Or until the tail end of the book. I mean, when they kept referring to the fallen house earlier in the book, I kept thinking that was House Vanth because they sort of fell.
I got you. Well, so it's they mention it at the very, very beginning, right? And there's like a little prequel page. It's like a few paragraphs long, just describing different houses. And they mention that one of the houses, being House Vanth in this case, and I don't even know if it's named actually. And of course, I don't have my copy here to look.
It isn't.
But okay, so they do. It's very vague. Like, one of the houses is said to be, it died out because there were no heirs or something along those lines. And then it says there's the fallen house who was stricken from the record completely because they did the bad things. So to be honest, that's not embarrassing. It's kind of like you. And especially if you were listening to it and not really getting like the full experience that you personally would by reading it, which to be honest would have been the same for me because I am terrible at paying attention to audiobooks for some reason. Like, I've tried putting them on when I'm driving and when I have nothing else to do other than drive and listen, and I can't. It just
nope. That's what I was doing, and I did not.
In one ear and out the other. So I feel you. So yeah,
it's so funny that like y'all are dyed in the wool, like have to read the book, and Nami and I are like, no, it's got to be the audiobook.
I think it's my special brand, especially of ADHD, that just is like, nah, bitch, you got to read the book. You got to read it. I also, weirdly enough, I having just reread Song of Ice and Fire over the course of the past, not quite a year. I think I reread A Game of Thrones last summer. There's a line where Sansa is like, I bet Joffrey moves his wormy lips when he reads, trying to imply that he's an idiot. And I'm over here I do that too, because that's the only way. Honestly, I if I can't move my lips when I read, I can't retain the information. I'm not an idiot. I'm not stupid. That's how I keep myself paying attention.
Yeah, but you don't have wormy lips. That's the key there.
I'm sure there's some people out there who would say some rude things about my lips, but you're right. They aren't wormy, I guess. But yeah, so yeah. Anyway, beyond that, beyond all that nonsense, I just you're not. I don't think that you are. I don't think it's embarrassing to not have realized that they are two different houses, because there's so much kind of. They don't really, and that's the thing. They don't really mention the Fallen House a lot until they realize that Rougeabert is part of it either. So you just read Severin, a lot of Severin's, inner workings of complaining about how he was robbed of his apparently supposed inheritance, not money, not monetary inheritance. He got that in droves, but he was robbed of his inheritance as being, the patron,
a power broker.
Yeah, of this house.
I just want to have enough money to be able to just buy a hotel. You're I have a really fancy hotel now because I decided to. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, wine. I don't get to be the head of this special house and have power in that realm, but I'm rich as fuck and own a fancy ass hotel where I can keep myself and my friends in perfect comfort. Could you I would do
literally my dream.
I'd be who's my 10 best friends who I want to live in this hotel with me? Maybe even more than that. Just come live in my fancy hotel, guys.
You need a place to stay? Come stay in my hotel. It's all good.
Exactly. For as long as you want, as long as you hang out with me. Because that is a little bit of fun.
And we might.
You wouldn't get tired of them after a while being leeching off your hotel, or not? You wouldn't care.
Not if you're super rich. Honestly,
not if I actually liked them and I was super rich. Then I'm exactly. Sure, stay here as long as you want. I don't give a fuck. I have other rooms I can rent out.
Yeah, it's clearly not a problem. And now, to be fair, Zofia doesn't do much for the hotel, right? She pretty much only works on their acquisition tasks, but Tristan does the gardens and Layla does the baking, and so they're not totally mooching, but at the same time it's listen, if I was just completely out of this world rich and owned this gorgeous hotel, if I could sustain my business and also just give my close friends a place to live if they needed it or wanted it, fine, whatever. Yeah. But then, unfortunately, you'd have to hang out with me. Or maybe fortunately. It depends on who you are. For them, I mean, not for me. They'd be the unfortunate ones having to hang out with me. Okay, so we get through, this whole fight in the catacombs, and the Sphinxes come and they record everything, so they know that the cookies aren't the bad guys. And by the way, Jonathan, I'm guessing you didn't watch our last episode because
I have not. No,
you've been overseas. But so we call them the cookies because we were looking for a name for them that was not the team or the crew or whatever. And at first cakes was the thing, and then we were nah, cookies is fine.
Well, Layla bakes, so that makes sense.
Right. Well, right. And Sophia, they all love the cookies, but
Yeah,
Sophia
exactly.
is the most hard to please, and she especially loves the cookies. So they are the cookies now. And that's the easiest way to refer to them, which is funny because when I put this like book summary on our website, I'm gonna have to come up with a way to like insert the cookies
Incorporate, yeah.
like earlier.
Just put a
Otherwise,
parenthetical.
otherwise it won't make sense. Also, Jonathan, I know you might have to go soon, so just let us know if you need to bow out.
Yep.
So they get through the fight in the catacombs, and who is this bug mask guy? Like, we never see his face, right? He's just a guy in a bug mask.
The doctor.
Name the doctor, and clearly not the one with a scarf.
That took me a second.
He's no Tom Baker.
Oh my gosh, did you see that they cast
Yes, from Sex Education. I'm so excited.
Yes. Well, and the girl from Heartstopper, the trans woman, they cast her as someone too.
The companion.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. People are
I
freaking
haven't
out
seen
because her
that.
name is Rose, and they're like, "Oh my god, how could she possibly be Rose?" Blah blah blah. And I'm just like, they haven't said that she's like that Rose, obviously.
Yeah,
Like
there
apparently there
can
was
be
one
more than
article.
one Rose, guys.
I mean, they've now been on the air so long that using companions' names a second time doesn't seem out of the reason.
Well, we also don't know who she is, right? Like, a lot of people this is a total random aside. Sorry, people who are watching this for Gilded Wolves takes, but people are mad because they're like, she can't be Rose, like reincarnated. Like Rose herself wasn't a doctor, and it's like that's not the point, y'all. Like, there was one article that said like she was Rose, like that Rose, and then other articles are like we don't know why she's named Rose. So I'm kind of like, I think this one person just wrote it wrong because they're So anyway, total random aside because Jonathan mentioned Doctor. Which I don't even watch BT dubs, but I follow the newsy things.
I was a fanatic about the older Doctor Who, and I found the new ones way too manic, but that's neither.
Of course you did, Jonathan.
I tried and I couldn't get into it, but I'm the same way with
I'm going to have to go, guys. I apologize.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
Take care of yourself.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Love you. Okay. So poor Jonathan, like his family gets stuck in Europe because they get COVID, and now he's like, oh shoot, all of a sudden I'm not feeling well. Like, ugh, the worst. Okay, so it's just you and me, Nick. So do you have any other thoughts on the fight in the catacombs? I mean, the skeleton stuff. The skeleton stuff was cool. I enjoyed
that was awesome. That was
really
really fun.
I don't even know how you'd like describe it. Like, I'd love to see it on screen because I feel it would be very like horror-esque.
Yes.
And I also feel like it could be like a joke, like the dancing spooky, scary skeletons.
That was actually the scene on the screen was like one of the first things that came to mind for me because I felt like that part was written in a way that was very like visually exciting. And I would love to see how that might get portrayed. And of course, with the parallels to Six of Crows and the fact that we actually have a Shadow and Bone series, I was of course thinking in those terms as well of like, ooh, what if this did get picked up and what would that be like?
Oh, I think it's entirely possible. To be honest,
I
haven't looked to see if it has been. Because here's the thing, like it's like Red Rising, this series that I love, it's been picked up like 2 or 3 different times and dropped.
Oh yeah, that's always frustrating too.
But that would be a really hard series to portray on screen, live action especially. Like they would have to change a lot of things, which I'm sure we'll get into when we cover that series, hopefully sooner rather than later. But this one, I think that this is written, right? Probably more movies than TV. I don't know. I don't know that you would really need like.
Yeah,
See what happens after the next 2 books. But like this first book could absolutely be covered in like a 2 hour and 20-minute movie.
yeah, I was gonna say it would be like a 5 episode
Yeah.
season if you were doing it as a season.
But anyway, all that said, I mean, as much as the fight in the catacombs didn't like jump off the page to me, yeah, there was still a lot of really great imagery and whatnot
Mhm.
there. And I mean, like Rouge Bear, like his blood turning gold, like what the fuck? Like, how did they do that? Right?
That
Like,
man just creeps me the fuck out. Like all the descriptions of him, I'm just like, ew, gross, no.
yes,
I don't
his
even want to
sweaty
hear you talk
hands.
about him
When
anymore.
Sophia has to
Like,
take his hand in the first like
oh yeah, and it's like sweaty but cold.
ugh.
And I'm just like, no, thank you. That sounds horrifying.
Here's my damp hand. Oh
Don't you want to hold my hand?
god, he's so gross. He's so gross. Yeah. Ew,
Yeah.
gross.
Yep.
I still don't know. Blade Hat
Yeah.
Man, like not R.I.P. because whatever. But
Yeah, because
and also, I mean, I get like Severn being like so like needing to save Tristan in that moment, like knowing
hmm
and just being tortured for days on end, right? I mean,
yes.
but at the same time, oh my god, dude, this could have been
Yeah.
so much easier if you just like thought about it for a hot second. I'm very torn about it. I'm very torn about it.
Yeah. I totally get grieving, obviously. But also like, buddy, my guy, come on. Stop doing this. Just stop doing it.
Well,
You
I
don't
mean, yeah,
need
I
to.
mean everything about like he saves Tristan, and then like we get the whole what is it? How many weeks later or something like
hmm
that? And Tristan is just miserable and not wanting to do anything, be around anybody, like anything. Like he is PTSDing real hard
hmm
for obvious reasons. And then they go out to the party, which if Sophia was able to bail, why did Tristan have to be there?
Right?
That's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, how so did they just like make Tristan go? Was it like forced upon him? Like it wasn't really clear, but like if Sophia
Yeah.
could just be like, nope, I don't wanna. And I get that Sophia, doesn't really love being around crowds and stuff, so I guess they kind of pass it off more than they would. But Tristan doesn't really seem to either, particularly after his whole experience and
Yeah.
the Phobos helmet. Like, just leave the poor boy alone with his tarantula, y'all.
Yeah. Let him hang out with Goliath.
Like,
Jeez.
I, man, to be honest, like, I've been there. I've been through some real shit in my life where I got to a point some years ago where I just, uh, basically, like, the only place I felt safe was at home with my dogs.
hmm
Like cooking some
Yeah.
food, being at home with my dogs. And I'm not talking pandemic, I'm talking way before that. Like,
Yeah.
so I get it. And why did he have to go out? It was very plot convenient to me. Like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that Sophia got to bail, but he didn't. And because again, he also was never the type to like want to go out that way either.
No. He would do
Ugh,
it begrudgingly when like Severon made him, but
yeah.
he never was like, "Ooh, I want to go party."
Yeah.
That was always Enrique's thing.
Yeah. So so they go to the party, which also, by the
hmm
way, is like, oh, we finally find out why they're called this book is called the Gilded Wolves.
Yep.
It's literally just because they wear these masks for like 5 seconds.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
And
It is a pretty name though.
I mean it is. It's a great book name, but also it's like
hmm But like, why did you just put that in there to name it Gilded Wolves
yeah,
or?
because there's no I get that it's like a full moon party, right? So ha ha ha,
Uh
wolves
huh.
howling at the moon.
Wolves.
It only happens at the end. I don't
And
know.
literally for like half a scene.
Yeah. And I don't even think Layla is wearing one. And obviously Sophia
No,
doesn't.
she wouldn't be because she's on stage, isn't she?
So yeah, I like, okay, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah. No, I mean,
This book should
great
have been
title.
called The Cookies.
Yes. Sugar cookies.
So, okay, going back to why Sophia didn't go real quick though.
Uh-huh.
I feel bad.
I know. Oh,
I feel bad. Like,
poor Sophia.
she
And
just, I don't
it
know.
was one of those moments too where it's like in a TV show or a movie where you're like, oh, somebody's gonna walk in and see it.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, because there was a whole back and forth between like Enrique, I think, has a conversation with Sophia,
Mm-hmm.
and Sophia goes away, and she's getting ready for the party, and then the hypnos thing starts. I mean, it was kind of. I thought it was a little bit predictable. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, she gonna see them, and it's not gonna
Yep.
be good. And I feel so bad for her because it's like
I know.
he
She was
does.
finally getting to that point of like, I'm gonna push myself a little bit out of my comfort zone because I love my friends
And
and I want to hang out more with
Enrique,
Enrique. Like he's real pretty.
and he does like her too, though. But like
Yep.
she doesn't, she doesn't understand that. Like she
Yeah.
doesn't understand that. And listen, I am not harping on Enrique for getting his right. Like,
Yeah. Oh hell no. Get yours, buddy.
like hypnosis has now become a half chocolate chip, half oatmeal raisin.
Yes, exactly.
I don't really know how else to describe it, honestly.
Yeah. I honestly loved Hypnos from the beginning. He was that ridiculous boy who Severon thinks is like completely like got this master plan, and really he was just like, no, I just tricked you.
I think, obviously at first I was like, this dude, I don't know.
Oh sure.
But yeah, no, it was like
Very quickly he became like, oh, you just want to be friends with everybody.
he just wants his friends. Like he just
Yeah.
wants his friends, y'all. Oh, and also
Oh, and
very
the way he
clearly
would just like pout whenever they were like, we're not friends, and he'd be like, but I just want to be friends, you guys.
part of your
Fine, I'm going home.
poor Hypnos.
And then he basically moves in with them, and it's
like he got rooms at the hotel.
Love it.
I wish I could be like that like sure of myself, but
yeah.
also, like I don't know, he's like sure of himself, but also like not, and also rich,
but also insecure. Yeah.
He's great, and he clearly liked Enrique from literally the moment he laid eyes on him.
Oh yeah, when he's like, "Who's this though?
Guy? Who's this cute little historian?"
Yes.
I love it, but I do feel bad for Sophia. I have a
Yes.
feeling that there's a very good chance, and I'm saying this, I literally haven't even started the second book, so I am saying this, but I have I'm saying this as like, I have a feeling that there's a very good chance that this will be rectified one way or another. And yeah, so I'm not really like, it sucks for Sophia in the moment, but I'm not really worried about it right now. And I know we talked about it in our last episode where we were kind of saying, oh well, I mean, they could be not like a throuple, but like
a hinge.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know the terminology as well as you do, to be completely honest. But yeah. So
that's why you have me on the show.
Exactly. So I feel like it could. It's the only reason.
Exactly.
I say as I'm constantly like, I want these polyamorous relationships. I don't really know much about it, but I know that they can be healthy, and like this could be a healthy relationship. That's the point. Like
exactly.
So Sophia doesn't go and misses out on Tristan getting murdered, which is like, oh god, like, so Severin gets this fucking letter, this VIL, very important letter, and like, it's just like, I'm just not gonna read this. And then only opens it in the second before Roshani.
Again, it's literally like a scene in a show or a movie where the characters like opening up. They're like, "Oh,
like there would be a
don't leave the
close-up
hotel."
letter.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
Oh Lord, and I it's one of those things too where he reads the letter and immediately like Rouge Bear shows up and flings the blade hat, and Severin goes for Layla because he assumes that's who they're after because that's who he's so obviously in love with. But how would they know that, right? Like there's been this whole like everything between Severin and Layla that is played out on page where other people can see it is obviously a fake out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Severin dives for her, and then poor Tristan.
Yeah.
He's just.
Yep.
To be honestly, after it happened, I was like, okay, I'm not surprised. Like, he was never really fleshed out. He didn't have POV chapters. Now, listen, if he had had POV chapters and been a little more fleshed out, it could have been more like a Ned Stark situation where you're like, ah, shit.
Yep.
So take note, Roshani Chokshi.
I mean, honestly, I do feel like not that we should have seen it coming from the beginning or anything, but like I do think that that is a really good way of getting people invested in a character, is to give them those POV chapters so we know a little bit about what's in their head and what they're thinking. And it just gives a little bit more flesh to a character. And it is weird when you have a group of characters like with the cookies and everybody else has a POV chapter except this one character.
And it.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally just Tristan, who is part of them and there from the beginning, and Hypnos. And it's like,
And then we get Hypnos's POV chapter, which makes me think we're going to get more in the next book.
Oh, we absolutely are. I hope. Anyway, I haven't looked, but like I have to assume.
I haven't either, but it, like you gotta, right? Like that's gonna happen.
Yeah. I mean, but again, like you said, it's not that we necessarily should have immediately seen it coming, but it was kind of, especially as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, of course, because as soon as it happened, it's like, oh, yeah, they wouldn't have known. Like all they know about Severin and Layla's possible fling is like she kind of made a show of it, but she also did that with Hypnos, I believe.
Yes. Well, and that was also her as L'Enigma, not her as Layla. And I can't remember if is she, so maybe she is on stage as L'Enigma at that moment. But still, like, why would you? It still would make more sense to attack one of the very publicly known, like, close associates of Severin than somebody that he might have had a fling with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Layla was on stage when he opened the letter. So now whether or not she was, the one thing I'm questioning is whether she was L'Enigma during the spring fling thing. That's not the name it was called. It was like the spring fling. Let's call it the spring fling. But regardless, I think that the portrayal of her being close to Severin was always as L'Enigma. But I mean, okay, so they think he's close to her, so that's also a thing. But of course, I don't think there was. It was always clearly for show, and I think that the members of the Fallen House and Rouge Bear would have just known that from the beginning. So it's kind of like, okay.
But also in the moment, he's not thinking about that. He's just thinking about protecting the woman he loves.
Right. Even though his
And
job,
then he fails to protect
his
the
brother.
person that he swore to protect. And so he feels guilty and broody and is an asshole about it.
Yeah. So I guess let's get into that.
Yep. I
So
mean, you already know how much I hate that shit.
yes. Oh no, we both do. And so did Nami. And I know Nami was so
Mhm.
sad that she had a work emergency and couldn't be here because we all had a lot of things to say about this.
Yep.
But I mean, you go ahead because you had you're the one that you finished it after Nami and I did. So
Yeah.
you came to us with this information and we were just like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so fucking tired and ridiculous. And like the idea that the way that he is going to protect everyone is by shutting them out. And he can't be in a relationship with Layla because he has to protect her and she's not capable of making her own decisions. I think you were the one who said, and I completely agree, like it completely robs her of agency and autonomy.
yeah,
And I just hate it.
Your comment was that fuck this, like I can't be with you because I have to protect you, toxic masculinity bullshit.
Yes.
And it turned like your feelings about a character that you didn't really care about into
Yeah.
worse, right? He's a stale cookie is what you said. That's your
Yes,
word.
that's right. I did.
I
I
have to
said
give
he was
you
a
I have to
stale
give you
cookie
the
now.
props for that. He's a stale
Thank you. Thank you.
And for my part, the relationship that I was in the middle of college and for a little while after college, it started that way. Like obviously not like
Mhm.
I'm going to protect you from deadly murderers and can't be with you stuff, but like it was very much like, well, I can't be with you because like I have to protect you from getting hurt. Like I care about you. And it's like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah.
And if I'd been older and I had seen those red flags and not bothered, like, well, to be fair, my life would be totally different and you can't go back and change things. But
Yeah.
because I've been through that whole, like, I shouldn't date you to protect you type of shit, it seriously turns me off in literature. And
Yes.
it's a toxic attitude that also implies, like you said, a lot of shitty things that the person doing the protecting, quote unquote, thinks or feels about the other person. They aren't strong enough, they don't understand the risks of a relationship, etc. So yeah, it's just I don't, and I know this is YA, but like
But
I,
like,
I
why can't it be better?
I don't, well, and I don't know that we've, well, in this webcast particularly, as many books as we've covered, and granted, I guess only Shadow and Bone, and maybe to an extent the Six of Crows duology, and a little bit of the Nikolai duology from the Grishaverse were YA, but
Mhm.
we haven't seen a ton of that. Maybe a little bit in David,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it wasn't this pronounced. And it really, it's just like, please
Yep.
stop. Like, please stop.
Like, yeah. And
I was already meh about the stuff between Severin and Layla, but this really,
yeah. I think we talked about that last time. Like, I'm not usually just in general. I'm not a fan of like just, oh, we're having a romantic plot between these two characters because it's the male and female lead. But also when you throw this on top of it, that was when I was like, I'm done.
yeah,
I really don't care about this relationship at all because frankly, I don't want it to happen now.
yep, yep. Frankly, Layla is better.
Yeah.
The part where, uh, and this is actually a quote I wanted to highlight anyway. It it's when Layla goes to Severin, and of course we know from what we talked about the first part of the book is she is basically like a quote unquote made person, and
Hmm.
she was told that she has this deadline on her life, and that's why she's trying to find this book that might extend that deadline or get rid of it entirely. And the quote I wanted to pull was, she thought that having a deadline on her life should make her pull back, but she didn't want to glide through life unfeeling. She wanted to know everything while she could. She didn't want the ghost of thresholds not crossed hanging over her. She didn't want one night. She wanted a chance. And that is what is in her mind before she, as Severin has just opened his door to her, and she just, pulls him in and kisses him, and he's immediately just like a huge asshole. And it's like, do you understand what this person just gave you?
Yeah.
And you like, it's not like I'm not attracted to this person, right? Like, y'all have
Right,
already
exactly.
been there, and you've been thinking about each other the whole fucking book, and now this.
Y'all have been masturbating to each other for months. Like, come on.
Like, yeah, you are each the one the other thinks about.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, stop. But like, oh, like his brother just died, and like, and he, and like some of it is like wanting to protect her because, oh, I'm dangerous. I'm dangerous. Like Darkwing Duck.
I love the jazz hands.
Fucking Darkwing
Dangerous.
Duck.
Let's get dangerous. Ooh.
Oh my god. But yeah, like he's like, part of it is wanting to protect her, and part of it is like, this insane guilt he's feeling, like you said, about
Yeah.
the fact that he chose her over Tristan. But to be honest, like Tristan was I don't know, like not a good character or anything, but like,
Well,
of
his
course,
purpose was to be protected.
right.
And like they talk about that multiple times throughout the book. Like, and I think it's after he comes back we get a little insight into like Layla talking about how she had always protected him too, but like it was different now, and she felt even more protective, and just like
Well, we talked about
kind of
that.
just the vibe.
Yeah, we talked about that in our last episode when we covered the first three parts of this book too, or I did anyway, where at first the very first thought I had about Layla's like very first chapter, I think, she goes to
Mm-hmm.
Tristan, she's like mad about him because his tarantula was in her room, or mad
Mm-hmm.
at him because
Yep.
his tarantula was in her room. And the way she's treating him, at first it felt like she was treating him as a potential lover, or
Mm-hmm.
possibly already lover. But then I realized very quickly, obviously, that wasn't the case. It was like if your little sibling
Yep.
did something to you, which is hilarious because my little siblings didn't do shit to me because they were scared of me. Not because I was mean, I don't think, but like, because I don't remember ever, like, to be honest, like my middle sister was like really mean to me, like super mean. Like I wasn't the one that anybody should have been afraid of, but I'm thinking back, I'm like, let's say my middle sister had been the older one, and she's OCD. I mean, I don't think she's ever been officially diagnosed. I honestly don't know for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but like we used to go in her room and she would have a line of lip smacker chapsticks on top of her jewelry box. And my youngest sister and I would turn them around so that the labels are facing all different ways just to piss her off. And like that was kind of the way I felt about like Tristan bringing the tarantula into Layla's room, like little brother just
Yeah,
annoying
just like
sister.
poke, poke, poke.
Yeah, exactly. But at first, the way it read was like, oh, this is like a lover's quarrel. Oh God, no, it's not. Ew, gross. How did I ever think
Yeah.
that? Um, but yeah, so I guess this kind of brings us around to like, whoa, what the fuck? Severin is in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I was not prepared.
I wasn't either, but like I also earlier in the book there was a mention about like I think it was Severin said that Tristan had the same silver scar.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
And
they have the
I
same silver
remember
scar.
like thinking that and be like, oh God, like is he like the heir of the fallen house?
That's what I was thinking.
But then
But now I don't know anything because now we've got.
So
I don't know.
I kind of feel like this might be a red herring situation, but also,
Yeah.
like I said, Tristan did have the same silver scar. It was only mentioned in passing. I think it was Severin who was like, who knows where he got it, which is also weird as fuck. Like, it's the same exact scar, dude.
Yeah.
Where the fuck do you think he got it?
Yeah. That was like, I was like, you haven't thought like maybe
Duh.
this is related? Like he
Both
also shows up at a foster home where basically like little rich kids show up. Like you didn't think like, hey, this is kind of weird.
well, little rich kids show up that are also like where they're being
Right
placed
there.
with members of the order,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
or well, they're being placed with what do they call? What would you call them? Forgers, I guess. So
Hmm.
so yeah, it could be a red herring, as in he is actually the heir and they just fuck something up or whatever. But it could be that Tristan is the heir of House Van, or was the heir of House Van, but also Tristan could be the heir of House Vanth, and Severin could be the heir of the Fallen House.
Right.
Like, we don't, because that's the thing. Like, for all we know, because how young do your memories go back, right? So
Yeah.
Severin remembers his seven deadly stepfather, or seven deadly stepfathers, the seven deadly
Hmm.
sins in person, or not person, whatever. He remembers
Personified.
personified. Thank you. He remembers all of them, but he also
Hmm.
remembers his mother, but who wasn't allowed to call herself his mother, and he thinks it's because it was a mixed race relationship or
Hmm.
whatever, I think. But for all we know, he wasn't like, he doesn't remember Tristan because they were kept separated, or he doesn't like, we just don't know.
Yeah, we have no idea. I don't.
So I
It's
don't.
gonna be really interesting to see how they kind of play this out.
Yeah, well, and it's going to be really interesting if he is. I feel like at this point it would be kind of stupid and bad writing to have him actually be the heir of House Vanth.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to do something if you're
but
gonna end a book on that.
he did see the blue flash or whatever it's supposed to be at first, and then it turned. I think it's blue or green, whatever.
Yeah, the
It.
blue I think means that you are the heir.
Yes, yeah. So and then it turns like right after that. So
Hmm.
he's the heir to something as far as I'm concerned. And so my guess would be that he's the heir to the Fallen House, but they're like, no, we can't have
Well,
this.
that would make so much sense too because of the way that the head of House Core reacted to him and was like, "Oh fuck no, get out of my life. I'm not
Yeah,
even going to talk to you anymore." After she had basically been like, at the very least, a very close, like almost aunt kind of figure, if not almost like mothering him a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
So the fact that she was like, "Oh fuck no, you can't talk to me anymore,"
It still begs the question
that
as
would
to
make.
why Tristan was turned out the way he was as well, but
Well, and yeah, we don't know. Like, it's possible. There's a lot of possibilities for why that could be, but I do think it'd be really interesting if he was the actual heir of House Banth. But then, like, he's dead, so fuck.
I mean,
It would be more. Part of the problem is that then you create a dead end in a storyline. Because if you have a different potential heir of House Banth, you could actually have a story that could bring back all four houses.
I just hope that it's not like we're gonna meet like another secret heir in like
Oh no, yeah,
end
that would
of
be
book
terrible.
2 or like during book 3. And again, I
Hmm.
have not even started book 2. So this is me just saying, like, please don't let that be the case, and I'm gonna hate myself so much if it is, for like sort of predicting it. Um but yeah, I don't. It was a very weird ending, and
Yes.
I don't know I don't like and is Rouge Bear dead? Remind me. I can't. He's not, right? He escaped. I'm pretty sure he
I
escaped.
think he's dead at the end of the book.
Is he? Ah, shit.
Shit, now I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because
So
he escaped, but he escaped to go do the thing. And I thought, for some reason, I thought somebody took him out after he killed Tristan. But I could be wrong about that.
yeah, I honestly don't remember. So I guess we'll have to figure that out in book 2.
Yeah.
I'm sure if he's still alive, he'll come back.
That is one of the disadvantages to listening to it on audiobook, because I can't like just grab my iPad and like flip back a few pages.
Yeah, I mean, I have the book right there, but I don't want to spend the
Yeah, no. It's
God knows
it's
how
good.
much time.
We'll figure it out, and we'll update you on the next episode.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, I guess like this has been a real quick episode, but again, we were only covering the last like third of the book.
Yeah.
So do you have any last like thoughts or theories or feelings? Like,
I'm really vibing on this. Like, Severon is actually the heir of the fallen house now. I don't. I'm going to be starting that book probably tomorrow. Honestly, like I've been holding off.
me too. Because they're such quick reads, and I'm just like,
They
oh,
are.
if I read it too fast, I won't remember anything.
Well, and so they don't have separate. At least in the first book, they didn't have separate actors for each of the POVs, but they had one male actor do the male characters and one female actor do the female characters. And I like it when there's more than one voice actor doing the audiobooks. So I get it. I'm excited to get into the next book and get into the characters and get those Hypnos chapters.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming they're not going to introduce.
We've got to. She's not going to do that to us. She's not going to tease us with Hypnos chapters and then not give them to us.
Give us our now half chocolate chip, half oatmeal
Yes.
food, man. Like, or
We
I don't
need
know.
it.
Like, I would picture Hypnos like if he had a choice. If he had a choice, being like, I want my they them pronouns, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
I could totally see
Might.
that. Like Enrique, definitely he. Like
Yeah.
definitely he. But like, and the rest of them definitely, you know, he, she, whatever they're
Assigned gender
yes,
pronouns.
but I definitely picture Hypnos would be like a great like. Could you just like they them me please?
Yeah.
I doubt it's
Or
gonna
maybe
happen.
like a he they. I don't know. Could be interesting.
Yeah. I doubt it's gonna happen, but that's how I picture him. Honestly, like I just and he. I don't know. I love Hypnos so much. Like I didn't
I know.
think I would, and I just the whole end of this book where they're like they're going to Russia together.
I know. Yes.
Oh my god, I feel like we're back again. I'm getting temporary flashbacks. They're going to Russia. No.
But at least it's not as boring.
Nowhere near, thank God.
Yeah. And we actually have women who are POV characters. That's fun.
Yeah. Like actually POV and you know, because there were good female characters in Temeraire.
There were good female characters in the even the ones that I read. There were some good female characters. They just like were secondary at best.
Yeah, it's Kiriko for life. I don't think you got as far as this Kiriko, but it's Kiriko.
No, I don't think I did.
Great. All right. Well, on that note, once again, I'm Tara along with Nick. Jonathan was here earlier and had to bow out, but thank you for joining us for Sagas and Sass, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.